reporting for Katie Chats here in downtown Toronto at Theatre Passe Murailles, here with the producers of Nyctophobia Films.
Marty Birthhelmemer.
I'm Christopher Harrison.
And Phil Pattison.
How does it feel to be here with your play, The Night of the Living Dead, live opening very shortly?
It feels absolutely amazing. This was a long time coming. We've been working on this together as a group. This core group, we've been working on it for over a year, but we originally conceived it 2 years ago after I'd seen a picture of a friend who, him and his girlfriend went to a Halloween party dressed up as black and white zombies from George Romero's 1968 Night of the Living Dead, and I was like, wow, that's one of the coolest photos I've ever seen. And I was like, I wonder if we could do something with that, like in terms of making a stage play. And so I suggested to Phil, I'm like, the whole movie takes place at a farmhouse, and if we made it all black and white like the film, I mean, I really think we might have something here. And he was the same. He was like, oh my God, I think you might be right on that. And so basically one thing led to another, and we started sort of going into pre-production. We were going to do a smaller version of the show where we're from in Hamilton, but it didn't actually work out. And also we didn't have George Romero involved at the time. And basically we met them at the Festival of Fear. We were promoting our film Devil's Night, and we were just walking around looking at all the people in costumes and whatnot. And to our surprise, John Russo and Russ Striner were at the same event in the anime section, not in the horror section. So we were in disbelief, and I was like, oh my God, Phil, the dudes are here. Like, we have to talk to them. And so we just went up to them. Mutual friend introduced us. I actually went up and got autographs first because I was so amazed that they were there. And I just told them, we've come up with this idea for a show. It's going to be all black and white. There's a long history with Night of the Living Dead of people taking it from me. We're not those dudes because you're our heroes. Would you be interested in executing our show? And he's like, well, here's my phone number, and give me a call, and let's see if we can set this deal up. And so last April 26th, Phil and I sat down with George and Russ at the King Edward Hotel and signed the deal, and the show opens a year to the day that we signed the deal, which was just amazing serendipity. So yes, it's been a dream come true.
What makes Theatre Passe Murailles the perfect location for this interactive production?
Funny story actually about how we obtained the theater. Again, back to the serendipity of the whole project. One of our coworkers, Cam Schwartz, he was calling around to some of the theaters, setting up interviews for us to go in and check it out. And he had a problem with his email 2 days prior to coming into Toronto to look at another theater. We had walked into this building because we assumed this is where the appointment was set up.
The last email I got from him that this place was suggested. And then, so I said, yeah, it's there, it's here.
We walked in here, and Chris and I both looked at each other, and we looked around. It's like, wow, look at this place. It is the perfect setting. It's got the old, rich history to it. It's got kind of like with the wooden floors and the brick walls, it's got the farmhouse feel. And to our surprise, they had no idea why we were here, the theater. We weren't actually set up to be here. They happened to have a meeting here. They were all sitting up on this upper deck looking at us like, who are you and why are you what are you doing here? Within 5 minutes, we explained it to them, and they were like, yes, let's show you around. And it turned out...
we do have time to show you around.
So it turned out that we actually had an appointment at another theater on the other side of town, which we went checked out, but we fell in love instantly with this place because of that.
And the location of Queen and Bathurst, all the great restaurants, all sort of our demographic hangs out in this area, so it was really important that people could be here, hang out, have some fun, and then go out to the streets and have some fun. Or if they want to go get a pizza, I know that seems small, but in my head, if I go to a theater and there's nothing around, I'm like, oh God, like, so we wanted something that had lots around it, so that was ideal for us as well.
Great. And tell me a little bit about the process in terms of getting Christopher Bond on board.
Christopher Bond, I mean, he's got such a reputation behind him for Evil Dead the Musical, and that really precedes, in our culture with the horror demographic, and I mean in theater especially, right? He really broke waves, he really shook up what theater was and really brought in the horror demographic. I know that these guys actually wrangled him down. I mean,
yeah, it was funny because we do IATSE gigs on the side, and we were working the print show, and I was talking to a friend of mine because I was having trouble trying to get a director, but in terms of like Citizen Kane, we were trying to get the best people. So it was like, if we could get the best guy, who would it be? It'd be Chris Bond. And so I'm talking to a guy, and I'm like, I know you do theater and whatnot, but I was like, do you know any directors that might want to do this? And a couple other guys were like, I'm not doing no Night of the Zombie, whatever. And he's like, well, I actually know Chris Bond. Have you heard of him? I'm like, oh, you got to be joking. I'm like, that's the guy we're looking for. And he's like, well, I'll call him tonight, and if he wants to call you, then he'll call you. And like 7:30 that night, he called me. He's like, hey, I heard you want to do this show. This sounds great. We should all sit down. So we had like a 40-minute conversation. I just basically did the same thing we did with George and Russ and just expressed our passion for the project and the people involved and how much horror and what we do means to us. And he was right on board. He's like, you know what, I'm the same. We're all cut from the same cloth. And it was like something we really wanted to make together. So he ended up taking the job and becoming part of this with us. So again, it worked out perfectly.
And what do you think is the #1 thing that fans will enjoy about this play?
Oh, you know what? Everything in a nutshell. But I mean, it hits on all the elements that you really want to see when you come to see this show. You are going to be visually wowed when you see the fact that it's black and white. Our designers work so hard to actually make it an authentic gray scale tone, actors and all, you know, not just costume and setting, and so you're really going to be wowed by that. Our sound designers actually have sounds that are going to make you actually blown out. You know, it's going to be like that vivid, you know, IMAX experience. It's going to be all around you, the sounds. It's really going to engulf you into the show. And I mean, as well, the theater, it's so cozy, it's perfectly laid out, it surrounds the stage, you're really brought right in. The atmosphere just surrounds you, and it is a slightly interactive show. You are going to actually see some things out of the corner of your eyes that you would not have seen before, and it really just, you're immersed right into the culture itself.
We're not depending on the loud booms for the scares. We have other creative things that are incorporated, and I've been to other shows where every time they tried to scare you, it was just with a boom, but I can shoot a gun off here and scare everyone right now.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's actually scary, right? But it was just that's where our mindset was in terms of creating, was that it had to be a show that people would feel uneasy watching. I want them to feel like they're in a Night of the Living Dead and be really uncomfortable and constantly turning around. It shouldn't be a good experience in that sense. So
and I'll tell you, being in here all week for rehearsals and all the technical stuff that's been going on, the sound and whatnot, it's blowing my mind. It is absolutely mind-blowing how awesome this is looking and turning out. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much, guys. Congratulations, and have an amazing run.
Awesome. Great to meet you guys.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, guys. I'm Katie Uhlmann reporting for Katie Chats here at Theatre Passe Murailles in downtown Toronto.